Hi, my name's Shawn Taylor. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. And I waited until after we started recording and I unmuted my mic before I realized I really have to clear my throat very badly. Chris, how you doing?
I am doing relatively good for some reason. So big Lakers fan, but they're out of the playoffs now. But you know what? Weirdly enough, this is the most calm I've been with the Lakers being eliminated from playoffs because there's so many injuries that even if they pass this round, they're so injury ridden right now that they probably wouldn't win the championship. So I'm just like, all right, they did not have a lot of time to rest. They had the shortest amount of time between the last championship and the beginning of the next season. I believe it's the shortest amount of time in sports history of any sports. So I don't blame them for this time around. Get some rest. Hopefully make some good additions next year. Add more 3-point shooters because Lakers are terrible at shooting threes. Like
You're
even
in
wide
money
open
trouble.
shot.
I don't know what you. I think, Chris,
The
I
thing
got
is,
bad.
you say that, right? But the NBA somehow these GMs make stuff work.
They do, but I I don't see it. I don't see where it's coming from. Maybe some sign and trade type deal or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't like Dennis Schroeder at all, but he's like, I don't know. He might be one of the more realistic possibilities to bring back. What's your feelings on Schroeder? Are you a fan? I am not a fan.
He's inconsistent.
I
That's all
think
my
that he's not
thing.
worth his price
Sometimes
tag. Maybe that's the right word.
Sometimes I really like him. Sometimes plays really great on ball defense, but and sometimes he gets the hole really really well. But he's really inconsistent with that. Would like someone more consistent. But what I'm saying, somehow the Nets pulled off getting James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant all on the same team, but apparently all making pretty great money.
But
Uh,
they had the assets and some financial flexibility that the Lakers do not even have anything close
they
to.
they can make it work
I
somehow.
will be interested.
I just need more 3-point shooters. Just
Doesn't have to be expensive ones, just guys
I
that can
don't.
shoot.
Just guys who can shoot above 40.
What's who did Danny Green go away for? Because I feel like Danny
He
Green played
went.
bad last year, but then that bring in
They brought
KCP?
in. No, KCP's been there. They brought in Wesley Matthews,
Oh, that's right. He's a
and
good enough shooter, I guess.
he was nothing. He was crap. He was a disappointment.
Really? But he shoots a
Yeah,
high rate, doesn't he?
I think he usually does, but he
Just didn't hit
was
it this year.
pretty disappointing. Yeah,
He's older. He's had some surgeries. I get it. As a KU fan, saw that Markieff Morris was mostly a playoff non-factor, so that was intriguing to me. And then Harrell, you got a guy who is sixth man of the year,
yeah,
and
he
then
was.
this
He
year it
was
feels
good.
like he didn't have a defined role. Felt like that
Yeah,
was a weird transition for him, but I don't know. I'll be intrigued to see where it goes. But long story short, it feels like a good year for kind of a weird team to jump in and win one for once. It feels like that kind of year to me.
yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see.
yeah.
Away from basketball and on to our second favorite topic of choice. No, just kidding. It's our first favorite topic of choice. You said you had some Avatar slash Netflix news, or just Avatar
Uh,
news.
Avatar Netflix news. Shout out to the Igbo. I knew this news, but I forgot to talk about it in our last episode. So there's some recent announcements. Well, not official announcements, but like pretty confirmed sources and stuff like that. This news from I got the news from Avatar News Twitter, which they're pretty good news source. This one guy, but he seems to be the type of person who doesn't just like put whatever on there just to put whatever on there. He confirms the sources and stuff like that. He doesn't run with clickbaity stuff. That's what
He's
I'm
got a
saying. So,
filter. That's always a good sign.
yeah. And if something's like very rumory, he'll be like, take this with a grain of salt. But so it comes from him and I guess other places, but I saw it from him. Anyway, it's about casting news for the Avatar Netflix series, which I have lost most excitement about. I think it will take a trailer to get me excited about it again. Even then, I'll be like, well, Mike and Brian's not involved. And
Trailers get exciting, but I don't know. I don't trust trailers.
yeah,
The Mortal Kombat trailer is pretty exciting. The
it was a
Godzilla
great
versus
trailer.
Kong was pretty exciting. Those were great trailers.
Yeah. Um, anyway, the Oh, good steal. The news is,
I must be a little bit behind you.
yeah,
Wait, or am I ahead of you? Behind you. I'm behind you. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, guys.
Chris missed like 3 of the Lakers' first round games. He's already watching more Clippers games out of vengeful spirit.
Yeah, screw them. Anyway, so casting news. So we have casting, not casting news, but what they're looking for in this cast. About 4 characters, 4 pretty important characters. Um, so say that um, the Aang, they're looking for a 12-year-old East Asian or South Asian. Katara, they're looking for a 14-year-old Indigenous North American, and for Sokka, a 16-year-old Indigenous North American, and for Zuko, a 17-year-old East Asian or South Asian. So that seems to be fairly accurate with the show, which that is good. Oh, then there's something about the ages um, in the show. They were going to change their ages slightly. So they'll keep Aang 12, keep Katara 14, make Sokka 16 instead of in the show he's 15, and then make Zuko 17 instead of in the show where he's 16. I thought he turned 17 like midway through the show. I mean, all of them, I feel like ages at least a year. I mean, they all age at
I would
least
say it's a
nine
long
months.
process.
Yeah,
So we're talking very light age ups and not
yeah,
to the extent that we had discussed previously. I would
yes,
say that's a win.
yes. And also before it was they flip flop Katara and Sokka's age to make Katara like, well, I wouldn't say that. There was rumors that they're making Katara, I think, like 15 or 16 and making Sokka 14, which would have made the Aang Katara dynamic like way weirdo, where it verges on the crushing on your babysitter type of deal, and and not crushing on her, I don't know, bigger crush, uh, slightly older crush. But so yeah, this is. I wonder if they were putting that out there. Sometimes I feel like Hollywood folks put stuff out there as rumors, so to see how the reactions is going to be, and it
Kind
was
of
pretty
fishing.
negative. Yeah,
Well, especially in that case where, like, it could have had an impact, but it'd be like a fairly easy flip. Like, oh no, they hated it. We better.
yeah,
We saw Sonic the Hedgehog. We know how this goes. We got to change that now.
yeah. Although that, I'm kind of mixed on that. I mean, I actually really enjoyed the movie Sonic, but also part of me is like, the internet complained about something and it won. Like, I don't like that aspect of. Like, they
I
should have just got it right to begin with.
They should have gotten it right to begin with, but I am glad they changed because I did enjoy the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. The
Well, not
best video game movie ever, I think.
let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Yeah. Can I count Wreck It Ralph as a video game movie, or does it have to be a video game
Uh,
before it's a movie?
I don't consider that a video game
Okay,
movie,
if you don't
but
consider Wreck It Ralph, then yes, I will say Sonic the Hedgehog meets that low
because
bar.
yeah, to me it's
But
easier because you're not adapting anything. Sure, you included some people, but honestly, lately I feel like so many people have been including random things. Like Ready Player One included a lot of like video game references and
and
stuff
Ready
like that.
Player One, I don't know how to say this nice. I enjoyed it. I would sit down, I would watch it. Same with the book. I would sit down and read. I would listen. Well, I wouldn't read it. I'd listen to the audiobook again. But I don't think it's good. It is like rife with, I'm going to use my favorite term, like plot conveniences of like, it feels like the writer stuffed this in as like an afterthought of like, oh, this would be really cool. Where can I fit this in? And just stick it in a place to make it work. So I wouldn't say it's
Yeah,
good, but I still enjoyed it for whatever that's worth. Like I will happily subscribe to watching the movie.
yeah. I liked it. Don't watch my review on it because I think it's a terrible review.
Interesting.
I'm very bland in that review. That review made me like just reconsider how. Just, I think it made me a better reviewer because I could look at it and be like, man, I need a little bit more energy and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't like that review.
Fair
But
enough. Hey,
not important.
hey, I had a I haven't gone back and watched them. I presume that everybody gets better, but yeah, I'm sure you're way better now than you used to be.
Yeah. Even though I don't review movies anymore,
Seems like a
flexibly
myth. Well,
speaking.
it's almost time to get back to that though. You
That
get
is
where
true.
we're
Yeah,
in that zone or close to it.
we are.
Will
I don't
you
know. I
will
feel
you
like
review Space Jam 2. Will you review that?
Hmm. Probably not. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not that excited for it
No, it's gonna be horrible, but
unless it just makes me unless I have a really hard opinion about it.
okay.
Then
I
maybe.
think I'm gonna have a really hard opinion about it, but
Well, we can review it real quickly whenever it comes out.
yeah, all right, fair enough.
um, Also, other Avatar news. So they've been doing somewhat like I don't know, covert casting, open casting for it. Like a couple different agencies around the world haven't been saying like, "Oh, we're doing open cast for Avatar." They'll say like, "Oh, we're doing open casting, auditioning for a 12-year-old East Asian boy and a 14-year-old Indigenous North American girl and a 16-year-old Indigenous North American boy." So they're doing a lot of open casting on that. So hopefully, we get some cast news in the next couple of months here and there. I mean, they'll probably, honestly, sure, there's open casting, but to me, it's more so of like, uh, the studio's like, hey, agents, if you guys have someone, tell us, your best person. But if I had to guess, I'll probably go with a more experienced person. But or no, I don't care. I'm
I mean,
I'm
I
I'm
still
just
do care, but I think I'll care less probably after I watch it. But I
yeah
still care right now, and gonna try really hard to keep caring.
yeah
I'll try to be optimistic.
yep. Okay. So yeah, that is I think mostly the Avatar news. And my own personal Avatar news about this new. Remember when we used to do like in our first couple episodes, we used to do like a advertisement bit.
Yeah, there was a one of my favorites. Well, we did Appa, but one of my favorites is there was like a Lego Fire Nation ship that looked
Mm,
sick. So yeah, remember it
yeah.
fondly.
Well, here's a new one. This is Fire Lord Ozai
Look at his
action
hair.
figure. Oh yeah, they got it all flowing and stuff. Pretty
Yeah,
much,
man,
I
he's
feel like
got
it comes straight from the scene where like he first lands and it kind of zooms down. Oh, it zooms down, and then you get his whole like they go from the feet up, and
the
you look at his
descent.
muscles and everything. Yeah. But no, I really like this action. Like it comes with a lot of little extra pieces. Like I might make a whole diorama type of deal once I get the Aang figure. Which thing is, I wasn't even planning on buying these. Don't even
Is
know why I bought this one.
is
I,
diorama? Is that what they make in Community all the time?
yeah,
Is that yeah?
dioramas. Yeah,
Do a diorama.
yeah, all the time. So yeah, so that's cool. And I got a couple
Uh,
more on the way. I got a Zuko one coming and a Zula one, where she's crazy, and then a Aang one. I have a couple other ones. But like again, I was not planning on buying. Don't know why I bought it in the first place. But then it must have been on sale,
he is
and
so
that
ripped,
was
and he
enough.
has such good facial hair. He reminds me of like a wrestler, like a wrestling toy, wrestling
Yeah,
action figures. Almost more than like a cartoon figure, but
yeah.
um, he's very intimidating for a toy.
Yeah.
Uh, I have one piece of news that's only mildly related. It's this just the only venue that I have to complain about it out loud. But I kind of decided that I want to. I used to play piano a lot. I was like, oh, I got all this tech. I want to play like piano digital. So I like digital electric piano. I don't know anything about the technology. I've been out of music for quite some time. I didn't realize how expensive it was. So I've actually had to start like selling a couple video games to try to afford this stupid digital electric piano that I'm sure I'll play like twice and then never play again. But if anybody has any advice on digital electric pianos, I want the keys to be weighted, and I need a sustained foot pedal. And was it like 73 keys was plenty for me. I would take any advice I get because there's a lot of choices out there, and I don't want to spend a lot of money on some crap. Reach out to me, help me, save me, and that's my news. I sold video games. That's what it boils down to.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm not proud of it.
Uh, yeah. We got a couple comments in our last video
Oh yeah.
that this might be a nice little. I feel like what should ideally I'll probably do this. In an ideal world, we would have. I mean, I love that people listen, love people comment. Thank you all. Um, in ideal world, we would have a little bit more, and then like we'll spend this time before the episode to like go over comments and stuff. Although a lot of times I just write them back on there. But I think I didn't. I don't think I applied to Caitlin's.
It is a
Um,
cool idea to hit comments from the previous episode at the
yeah.
beginning of the next show. I kind of dig that. I know we
Yeah,
record back
okay.
to back sometimes hurts it,
That is true.
but
That's
we could
why we
hit
do.
but we
Yeah,
could hit it every
we
once in a
can.
while though.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Heyo,
Mhm.
I think that's what he said.
That's,
Um,
yeah.
we it's kind of the same ish group of people a lot though, so we'd find a way to make it
It
work.
is. And I enjoy all these people.
Yes,
Meant to say, so I just was actually just talking
title my
to
sex tape.
Barry. Uh, on the last one, he wrote all tens, Chris. Your core bias is showing because I gave the last episode all tens, and yeah, I mean I tried. I feel like I'm being very fair this season because I've given this season a couple very bad episodes, but we'll see how that goes. Uh, and then the Igbo, he said
Keep
before
him honest, Barry. Keep him.
that is true. I do. Yeah, keep me honest. Call out if you feel like I'm not being unbiased, and call out anytime you guys disagree with us, which you guys do, which I love because it's all conversation. Well, it's all one. Anyway, if the Gibbo said, I appreciate y'all talking about Tulsa Race Massacre. It's such a great way to share information on your platform. Keep up the great work. Thank you for that. That's I mean, no, that's been on my mind a lot lately, just with the 100-year centennial of it and everything. And the more I think about it, sometimes the more I get frustrated about things, just rightfully so. Like they're building which I don't know. I need to talk to my sister about what her opinion about it. She's very
Does she still
into.
live there?
Yeah, I mean, three of my four sisters still live there. I have one sister who's like pretty involved in the community, and she loves Tulsa. Like she moved to Houston a while ago, but she probably never really wanted to leave, and now she's back in Tulsa. She's teaching at my old high school, which is her old high school, which is Booker T,
Booker T.
which has if there was ever such thing as a historically black high school, it'd be Booker T, and like it has connections to Tulsa Race Massacre, which I feel like every time I do research about the Tulsa Race Massacre or do a new report about it, I always learn something new every time. So like the second time I did something, I learned that my school served as a Red Cross, so as a impromptu location for the Red Cross to take wounded and everything. And then this time I learned that that high school was the last remaining building standing in that area, which is really interesting. Which I'm not like the most prideful person, right? Especially when it comes to like school and stuff like that. But I always had a lot of pride in going to Booker T. Like it stood as a just as a beacon of what I don't know what we could do, and a beacon of diversity. It's always one of the top high schools in the country. Well, I won't say always, but a lot of times it's like a top 100 school in the nation. Usually always in the top of the state of Oklahoma, but it has so much rich history in it. I remember when I got accepted to Booker T, like you have to get accepted, and you have
That's
to
kind of
apply
crazy
for
in
it,
its own right.
yeah, and get accepted to it. Like I remember telling my sister that, the same sister I'm talking about, and she like jumped up and down and like hugged me, and I'm like, okay, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I've
Uh,
never even been to Tulsa, but was familiar with Booker T. I mean, through sports, so maybe not the,
yeah,
but obviously it's pervasive and it's a very prominent school, so I can see it having a very pivotal place in its community.
yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just been thinking about that a lot. They're recently going to build a museum, which has for the Tulsa Race Massacre, which that sounds all well and good and everything, but it costs 20 million. They could have used that 20 million for survivors or descendants of the survivors, which I never thought of myself as a descendant of survivors, but I technically am. My grandfather was a baby in the Race Massacre, but I just never thought. To me, I think of every single black person in Tulsa as a descendant of a survivor of the Tulsa
Like if
Race
you had
Massacre.
family
Because
in the city of
yeah,
Tulsa at the time,
yeah, um, but no, I never thought of that. And then I don't know, there's a, a weird delayed sense of pride. Like yeah, I did. Like then again, I don't know. Like one there's black people should be full private laws of America. Like one of my favorite thoughts or quotes is like we are our descendants' wildest dreams, which is absolutely true. Like could they imagine one day their descendants being able to have the rights that they have and everything? Like even though we still have issues and everything, but we've made strides and strides. But I never thought of myself as like I'm a descendant of it. It's not that I would want when we talk about reparations and everything. It's not that I want like a check or something um, like that. But that 20 million could have gone to something better, like have an allowance for low interest loans for businesses and stuff to open up down
The
there
school,
because
I always, and granted, my opinion probably, I don't know how to say this nicely to myself. My opinion probably doesn't matter much here. I always think of the school system, it would be like such a good entry. I cannot get over that public school is not the same for every kid. And it just so happens that I would say the worst public schools tend to impact the highest proportions of not white people, and
yeah
I've never been comfortable with that. And that to me always seems like such a good like fix public schools, make public schools equal, and make sure all kids are getting the same education out of the gate.
yeah
So I said I don't know if that's maybe a good venue for reparations or anything, but that's always the first thing that comes to my head in terms of starting to pay back or starting to
yeah
repair damage is like let's get the kids on equal footing. And
yeah.
public school systems, I don't understand it. I don't understand.
Oh, good point here. Which is okay. My to transition to Avatar a little bit. So I've been thinking to myself. I had a shower thought yesterday when I was in the shower. Don't know why. Because you think about random stuff. I was thinking to myself like the Fire Nation is the only nation that has a public school system. like,
That's a weird thing.
like Aang
Okay,
just
okay,
put
but
Aang just
wait a minute. The Earth Kingdom very easily could have. We don't
they
know,
could,
but it
but we
could.
never
Well,
see
but
like
I'm not saying it could as in they should do it. I'm saying we could easily just be not aware of like a public school system happening there.
yeah.
Like it
I'm
wouldn't
just
surprise
saying
me at all, but
when when I don't know why I was thinking about this. I think I was thinking like, what if they were in like a school setting, like in middle school and high school and stuff? How would they react? And then I started thinking like, wait, only the Fire Nation has school because Aang, the Airbenders are probably taught, but we don't see that. Because Aang probably was taught. Because Aang probably did get some education because he was talking about how the history of. Oh wait a minute.
I'm sure his
Oh, maybe Aang
education
was.
was different, but it still could
Yeah,
have been considered sort of a public school. Like if all air nomads
yeah,
get
yeah.
the
But
same,
at best, Aang has a fifth grade level education. We never see Aang go to school
that's fair.
after this point. Katara and Sokka, they got like nothing. They live
Sorry, kids.
and yeah,
Street smarts. Well, it's
yeah,
not street smarts. It's like the opposite. It's like Discovery Channel equivalent of street smarts. Like he grew up
yeah.
in nature.
Toph being rich, I'm sure she really did have the best teachers and stuff. Um, but like you see other kids just out and about, just doing nothing. Uh, so yeah, so I think it's
Just wandering
oh no,
around.
just a random thought that I had that, and like all the time in the Fire Nation they talk about like how like oh yeah we went to the Fire Nation's Royal Academy for girls or whatever when Azula was saying how that she met Ty Lee and May, but no other nation really talks about their school system, and these kids need the education. They haven't they haven't in the comics you don't see them getting the education at all.
Okay, but in think of it this way though, in this universe at this time, we're kind of like I don't know. Is it fair to say we're like pre-industrial revolution for them, right? That
Yeah,
would be more of like a core age thing. So
yeah, I
they just
guess.
haven't they haven't gotten around to
Yeah,
formal
they're
public
not even
school yet.
1920s. I mean, if you think about compared to America
Well, their tech is like
history, they're because well, Legend of Korra is
mid
supposed to be like
18s.
19. Yeah, Legend of Korra is supposed to be like 1920, right? Um,
That feels right, like true
yeah,
industrial revolution,
yeah,
steampunky.
yeah, and they've said that plenty of times. Like they say like, oh, the Warring Twenties. Man, we're talking about the 20s a lot with the Massacre of 1921. Anyway, not important. Um,
What do you mean it's not super important?
sorry, it is not relevant to this conversation. My apologies. Thank you, Shawn. Um,
this this massive socio-political conversation we're having. It's really Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. um, um,
That would put what we're currently
they were
looking
probably
at
like 1850. Yeah, people weren't going to school in the 1850s.
not in the
Really.
same way. Like maybe you had a
Yeah.
schoolhouse in your village, in your Hamburg, whatever you call those things. Your what are you? Just
I don't
tiny
know.
towns. Maybe you had a schoolhouse of some type, I suppose. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say more people did not than did.
Yeah. Um,
And then the Fire Nation would be ahead of the time, so they've got theirs kind of set up. I get it. It makes sense.
yeah. All right. Man, we're diverging. Anyway, back to comments real quick. Caitlin said it's not Cora's fault she lost her past lives. She trusted Unlock at first because he was telling her things she wanted to hear, and look where it got her. It's a loss for us since we grew to love the most recent past lives, but for Cora, it wasn't truly a big loss because she never really relied on her past lives for guidance and wisdom. It wasn't like the end of last season where Amon took her bending when she was at her lowest point. Very true.
You don't know what you don't know. I'll buy
Yeah.
that.
Let's see. Hoda Hatami says, I think the part where Vatu comes out and pulls Rava out shows how much Unalaq is connected to Vatu. And I don't think any Avatar, but maybe Avatar Juan could do the same because he was so connected with Rava. And I think Book 4 Korra might be able to do the same because she is the only one after Juan who is spiritually connected to Rava. I concur with that. Let's see. Hoob said, I never heard of the Toast Race. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm laughing. I think I was. Anyway, I never heard of the Tulsa Race Massacre, but I found it interesting enough to go look it up myself. Sometimes history sounds so unreal. Heard Biden commemorate it this week, which is great, but also sad it wasn't really recognized, remembered before. But we're definitely moving forward the last decade, which I agree with.
I mean, a lot
Um,
of what I've learned, I, I don't know how to say it. I've learned more from Chris in the past 4 or 5 years about our real, like Midwestern American history, at
yeah.
least, than in lots of master's degree in college and high school prior to that time.
And Theo said, yes, a Power Rangers reference. I forgot what you even referenced, Shawn. But he said, thanks, Shawn.
Did we Power Rangers? What did we reference?
I don't know,
Did we say
probably.
Angel Grove?
I wouldn't
I can't remember.
would
Hey,
not put it past us.
but hey, every time we talk about Power Rangers, I have to tell everybody to just go listen to that theme song, that opening song, the original one. It's just pure metal. It's beautiful. It's my favorite theme song, maybe in, gosh, maybe ever. The opening,
Yeah.
Chris, you're
Oh,
surprisingly
it's great.
unresponsive. Do you not? You anti or
Oh,
just not?
no. That's great. It's
It's
a great theme song.
amazing.
The same composer composed the X-Men theme song.
I can't think of the X Men theme song off the top of my head. I'll go check that out afterward. Okay, yeah, I'm with you now. Yeah, that Power Rangers opening theme is sick. So I don't remember what we referenced, but I'm glad we did. Any excuse to talk about that. All right, thanks, Leo. That was like the full regular crew of commenters and stuff. I like that. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, so that's all I got. Which I
That's
was
like yeah, that's like 40 minutes of other stuff. Let's talk
was it
about some
really
other.
40
No, it's
minutes?
like 30, 25. I don't know. I got the
Okay.
game
All
pulled
right.
up, so I pulled up the actual thing. 28 minutes.
20. Okay.
That's okay. It's a finale
Yeah.
episode. It's a big deal.
And we talked a lot about news and stuff.
And that I don't know. That's always good things. Well, it's not always good news. It's always good to talk about new things.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk. Let's jump into some episode talk. It's a finale.
It
It's a
is
big
the
time.
finale of book 2. Okay, so Cora's really feeling really down on herself, like really, really down. Like she feels so helpless. And I enjoy that a lot story wise. Because I think this is part of Cora's growth. This is one of her lowest points. She was definitely probably lower when she lost her bending. Because I do think she still has all four of her bending elements here. We do see her able to airbend up to the Tree of Time, and we see her water bending when she was at turns to Big Blue Giant Spirit. And so this feels sad, but um, or this feels, of course, feels sad. I don't think she feels as sad as she did at the end of book 1.
Maybe
But
less palpably physically devastated. More of a
yes,
spiritual,
yeah,
emotional devastation.
yeah. And the way she says, like she goes to she's talking to Tenzin, all right, because they're all knocked out for whatever reason. I think Undavatu knocked them out. And Cora's like, I lost the connection. She says, Tenzin, I'm so sorry. Like she says sorry to Tenzin. I think specifically Tenzin because one of her past lives was Aang, and Tenzin is kind of the
It's like having a
I wouldn't
small part
say,
of your family die again in a weird way.
yeah,
Not even a
and
weird way.
like he's sort of the keeper of this legacy, and she feels sorry for him. Which, so we started the season off. I hated that they really kind of um uh divulge. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Diverged?
That's not diverge, stunted, rescinded the growth between those two characters. Those
Okay.
two characters, I feel like the end of book one had a really solid relationship, and then they kind of uh, deconstructed and tore it down
It's
back
like
to kind
the
of square root at the beginning of book two.
it's the non-romantic equivalent of like an off again, on again, like romantic
Yeah,
drama relationship. Like I
yeah.
don't need that.
But man, if I don't love how they come together in this by the end of this, right? Because you start off book two, Tenzin is he's spiritually inept. He can't help Korra like at all.
I feel like
Uh,
Sing Tenzin's spiritually inept. That's like attacking his manhood in a way.
yeah. um, and those two are so separated. And then by this point, they really need each other. Um, Tenzin, Tenzin, to begin the season, he can't lead Korra spiritually where she needs to go, and that was Korra at her high. She has control of the Avatar state. She feels like a fully realized Avatar, but she's stunted in certain spiritual aspects. And he can't help her, Mr. Spiritual himself. But now he's able to come in and really help her out. And part of that was his own growth, that he had so much doubt on himself. He had so much of a lack of self realization. Uh, he didn't when he saw himself in the mirror, he didn't see himself. He saw himself as the legacy holder of Avatar Aang, the one who's all responsible for everything. He held himself to his father's standards. And through this season, through this journey, he's become, I don't know, a little bit more humble, a little bit more to realize that he is Tenzin. He's not just the son of Aang, and he's able to help Korra as he gets through his own emotional baggage, I guess. But just some great storytelling, I think, on that wise. Um, yeah, so then he tells her that he gives her some great advice. He takes her to the tree of time. He says, "You need to learn how to use your own inner spirit." And she's like, "Having aren't you paying attention? Like Rava's gone." He's like, "I'm not talking about Rava. I'm talking about you. You are Korra. That's your inner spirit, right? You have your own inner spirit. Rava is a part of you, was a part of you, yes, but it's wasn't you." And then they go to the tree of time, and he's like, Juan was able to do what he was not because of what he was, but it's who he was, and you're the same way. And and uh and Korra is able to take that advice and connect with her own spiritual self and bend that energy outward, which I think it's some great storytelling feats here. Sometimes people will be like, "Oh, this is like came out of nowhere," and they often don't levy that same criticism against Aang's energy bending. But I actually think this is written a lot better because this is Aang's Aang was able to spirit bend, not necessarily because of you know what? No, I'm gonna take this back. Well, he didn't get the ability to spirit bend necessarily because of his own skill or fortitude or growth, um, but because Lion Turtle was like, boom, here you go. But now I'm going to contradict myself here and say that he was able to start the energy bending because of the Lion Turtle, but I don't think he would have been able to succeed with it if it wasn't for his own uh, personal strength, that he was uncorruptible, and that's part of his story is that no matter what the world threw at him, the he was unbreakable in that sense.
I think
So yeah,
I do think that the Korra bit has a little more fleshed out, or a little more like meat to the story that feels right. First of all, it's a
Yeah,
heck of a pep talk. It makes you like when Tenz's giving that talk, it makes you want to run through a wall. Like I can do
yeah,
this. I think that Korra's does have a little more meat. I think why people, myself included, are so attracted to Aang and the energy bending is that uncorruptible bit. Like that is Aang. You almost forget every other facet of it. It's like, oh, he's such a sort of a pure spirited human that he just, yeah, sure, why not? So
yeah.
I totally get why that feels more appealing even to me at times. But I tried extra hard at the end of this season to take a slightly more critical eye, and I think I got better. Or I think I got more understanding the farther and farther into the season that we got, especially with this episode being a very appropriate climax.
Yeah. Um, and then yeah, then she turns into a giant blue spirit, which the music is so good. I think in this scene, and animation is done so well. Um, it's just a beautiful culmination of a lot of different skills.
The
Uh,
score in the past several episodes, these past, I want to say the last three episodes, that have a lot of really big dramatic tension. There's a lot of great music.
yeah. So then she goes off and she fights Unavatu as a huge giant, which I would have liked more dialogue between the two. I think because it feels it feels
Can
more
we make
giant monster
another
smashy
Can we make
than
another Power Rangers reference? It feels kind of like a Power Rangers thing. Like this is
mm,
just the big fight payoff at the end, as
yeah,
opposed to the show that we're sort of used to and expecting.
yeah. Which I guess you could say they had that in the last fight. There was a lot more dialogue in their last fight. Um, and also I think Core what good I guess would do. And in my head it'll just be Unavachu saying like no, how could she this is impossible, something to that extent. But I don't know, that's more gawking than anything because really they have nothing to talk about.
I
There's no like I'm trying to reach you type of deal. It's more just like we're just gonna fight and one of us is gonna die because um that's what's at stake here.
Can you remind me? Is this episode a half hour or
Yeah,
22
30,
or
yeah, 30, 20 minutes, where it's 22
um?
minutes.
I'm just thinking about this now. I've not fleshed out this idea in my head, but if we look at like the finale of any of the Avatar, the original Avatar seasons, like the first one's a two-parter, the second one, season two,
It's a
that
one-parter.
just a one-parter, isn't it? But
Hmm.
that's probably the closest to this, where there's like three or four big episodes all at the end, but they're not really.
Yeah.
It's three or four individual episodes, and that kind of resembles this. But I wonder, like, if you just semantically said, like, oh, this the last two episodes of this season is a two-parter, might if it might make us feel different. I know when I'm judging those really big episodes, I try to think, well, they had four times as much time to fit in a good story. But I don't know. I haven't fleshed that idea out at all. I was just trying to remember if this was an exceptionally or relatively short amount of time to work with versus other finales. Not
I think
really.
about it.
Season two just had
Yeah.
the one parter, and uh, book one of Korra just was a one parter as well. So 50-50 so far.
Yeah. Uh, there is something interesting. Even though they don't have dialogue, there is a story aspect going on in the fight. Korra is looking for Rava in this fight. That's the meat of the story here. And Mike and Brian always talk about how like each fight needs to have, a story aspect to it. And Korra is looking for that last strand of Rava inside of Vatu because um, when she looks in Tree Time, she sees that Rava still one. Like I can't destroy him any more than he can destroy me. Like he would just grow inside me. I would just grow inside him. And so she's looking for Rava. And I want to point out because sometimes people are like, "Oh, Korra would have lost his fight if it wasn't for Janora." Korra was in. There was one point in the fight where Korra is in charge of the fight, but she's just busy looking for Rava. because that is she needs to get that back in order to be the Avatar, in order to bring light back to the world. But then Vatu does get the upper hand, and then Korra, and then Jinora shows up, uh, uh, in a way, inexplicably shows up, and and
She was
and
called.
yeah,
I
and
actually forget what do they even.
it's so this is the worst part of the episode to me because they don't try to explain it. It's somewhat lazy to me, which I'll kind of, and this factors into the my story score. Um, in my head, Janora's purpose here is to shine the light bright. I don't even know what she's holding in her hands when she's coming down, but maybe she gathered up small bits of Rava and that helps. Uh, no, that doesn't make sense. I guess she's just holding some type of light in her hand, and
She's
she,
holding a metaphor?
I guess, so I don't know. And she shines the light, and that light is able to pinpoint where the light is at inside of Vatu. It kind of re jump starts Rava a little bit, and then and then and of course able to find her, find Rava, and then take her out of him, and then rip him out of there, and then spirit bend Vatu and destroy some into Vatu. But even in the commentary for this episode, uh, Bryan, they get to this point, and Bryan's like, "Hey, Mike, what is Schnorr doing there?" And Mike playfully is like, "I don't know." And then he goes on and explains like, the idea is that Schnorr, uh, she kind of emits some light for Rava to be pinpointed and everything. But even then, that was a very on a lackadaisical uh, reasoning or excuse, which they this is one part they definitely could have put some more explanation behind. Because to me, it's not that hard to explain it because you can explain whatever you want to at this point. But they just didn't try, which is
You
weird
do have a lot of
because
leeway because you're in the spirit world. Like, you could probably spin anything into
yeah,
something that sounded okay.
like just show Janora like scrapping up little bits, whatever, of Rava and say that she did that and
I found Rava in everything.
yeah,
Whatever. We'll buy it. I got to be honest. And I know it's just lazy watching or not being critical enough, but it's one of those things it didn't occur to me when I was watching. They're like, hey, what's she actually doing? Like, I just took it in stride. I think
yeah,
because it's the spirit world, it's like, oh, I probably just missed something earlier.
yeah. Um,
I'm not proud of it.
yeah, so that was a little lazy. But anyway, Korra is able to then uh, defeat
Unabatu.
Unavatu. There's also a weird thing that Janora's mom and Ikki and Milo are in Republic City when they were with Tenzin, because then Tenzin brings Janora to their mom to Pema, and Pema's like concerned and everything. But then why wouldn't Pema stay with the Janora's body in the South Pole with Katara? What would be the reasoning? The logical reason for her to go back to their home? Wouldn't she want to be by the bedside of Janora? I mean, like she's like dying, essentially. Like they're worried about her that she's in the spirit world so long. Story wise, show wise, they only put Pema there. In my this is my excuse. They only put Pema there so that she can be the fan's eye of seeing Janora. And then she says like, "Be careful, baby," and stuff like that. Um, but and that's probably a nitpick, especially compared to the trying to explain Janora's piece.
I don't know that
But
quite. I think that's more than nitpick. I think this is pretty
yeah,
valid questions for the pinnacle of the season. You'd think you'd want to have stuff pretty well fleshed out at this point.
yeah. Which is more weird because I feel like season one is written really, really well. Besides the teen romance drama stuff, but
Yeah,
that's probably more of a preference deal.
agent,
But yeah, to me, it's more of a preference deal. To
aging with
me,
the audience. Yeah,
yeah, it's written like fine, To me, it's not like I could take it or leave it. Um, but
Same.
this season they brought on extra writers and stuff this season, and to me, it's not written better. Maybe it's a little rushed or something, but I don't know. But that part
Uh,
could have been done a lot better.
even the issues with the animation studio, you trying to coordinate with that, I can see that impacting the entire process enough to
Just be
cause
like, hey,
issues.
let's just
Let's just fill it
wrap up
in,
this.
make it work.
Yeah, like they say plenty of times that season two was their hardest
Yeah,
working
so I
season.
could see just the whole continuity of the process not being great.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay, and then on a little B plot there, dark spirits are attacking Tenzin, uh, Kaya, Mako, Bolin, and Escandesna does join them. They which I like that scene of Bolin being like, "Let's face the end of the world together," and Eska says like, "You're so romantic." So, I love it. Yeah, really like that part. Even though that part of the story is somewhat very inconsequential because they're facing just random plague dark spirits, I do like certain aspects of it because one thing you see all four bending at the same time, right? Mako lightning bends, Tenzin air bends, Kaya water bends, and Bolin earth bends. It's just always cool to see all four elements being used at
Yeah,
the same time. And you put some people in peril,
it
right? Because
does.
then
It does
Korra,
feel like busy work a little bit.
yeah. Because then Korra is she saves the day and she's able to get back in time. Like they're like pushed back to the tree of time to where like, all right, guys, this is over with. All right, like we're about to lose, and then Korra gets back in time to save them. Um, and so yeah, it's kind of just done.
I don't remember what
Just
is said, but I do feel like Mako gives a pretty impassioned phrase or two. I don't remember what
yeah.
he actually says.
Yeah, so then yeah, she saves the day and Korra refuses with Rava, which is one thing is well, I'll bring this up later, hopefully. Just about scaling. Remind me to bring up scaling later. I'm talking about audiovisual. Um, but yeah, she refuses with Rava, great music again. And yeah, that's kind of how it ends. And it ends with
The opening.
Korra and Mako breaking up for real this time, which I think is a very real, I don't know, breakup. Like it's a it's it's oh, it's a
Official.
mature I don't know, yeah, mature, official, realistic breakup, I think.
Is does I feel like I'm misremembering? Did she like state that the spirit portals are staying open, or what's it?
Yeah,
She's
so
got
okay, so um after she breaks up with Mako, there's then this idea in her head like, well, maybe Vatu was right. And maybe Unalaq was right. Like spirits and humans shouldn't be separated. Like, and then Tenzo's like, whatever you do, I'll support you. Um, and Korra decides to leave the spirit portals open. Granted, she could close them at any time. And so to me, that's like I don't know, always anytime I try to make a decision, it's like, well, if I could undo this decision anytime I want, sure,
then
let's
yeah, let's
let's
just
try
take
it
a
out.
chance, see how it goes.
Yeah.
Let's give it a teaser.
Yeah.
Um, but they make it sound like a pretty big deal at the time because it's a big sounding
Yeah. No,
decision.
it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it is a very big deal. No doubt about that. So she leaves spirit portals open, and then she says like I think she gives a really great speech, which is funny because you compare that to her first speech in Republic City, which is just like she's so lost. But here I think she gives a really good speech. It's like I will no longer be the bridge between the two worlds. Like men and humans will have to learn to live together. I think we're entering a new spiritual age or a new. I think she just said we're entering a new age, which is and it ends on that note. Ends on I think a pretty future viewing note.
Again, it kind of makes you. It's very motivating. It's like a great pregame speech that she gives there at the end. Maybe a nice like bookend of character growth. I think her original speech came in like, is it maybe episode 2?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, a little
No,
bookend
I think
of
episode
season
one.
1 2.
In the episode
Was it
one.
episode 1? Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's like a nice mile marker there of look how far she's come. Look at this great thing that she's saying,
yeah,
facing the public and making her own decisions. Feels good, very rewarding.
yeah. The South Pole successfully succeeds from the North. You don't see that being a good thing. Uh, which reminds me, some politician they're talking about critical race theory, which is well, I say that as if I don't like critical race. I hate it when people try to. So critical race theory is just like, hey, let's teach about how messed up the United States have been in the past, pretty much, which is cool because we got to teach our history right. If we don't learn, we don't teach it right, we're not gonna learn the lessons from it. But some politician was like, I don't think we need to do that. Like we've kind of absolved ourselves of some of our past transgressions and our
You sound
sin.
like the neighbor guy
So
from the movie Pet Cemetery.
it's like then he was like, in the Civil War, we rectified, slavery and by abolishing it. I was like, wait, who's this we? Because you're from a state that
I
you're
know you
from
don't
Kentucky.
remember because you weren't there.
Who is this we? And there's still plenty of people who hold up Confederate flags. Like, who's this we aspect you speak of?
It's very collective. We apparently very collective.
As if the Civil War was just like everybody meeting together was like, should we abolish
Let's all
slavery?
sit down.
Let's all come to one
Do a T
cohesive,
chart or not a T chart. Yeah, a T chart with the pros and cons. We'll take
yeah.
notes.
And we all came together, and,
But at the end, we'll pass a vote.
yeah,
Except for you guys. You guys don't
not
get
not
to.
not even a vote. Not even. It was, I felt like he made it sound like they all held hands and said, "Yes, let's abolish slavery." No. Which reminds me of like sometimes when people are like, racism doesn't exist in America. Like we elected a black president. Like it only took 51% at most to elect a black president. Like, and then I'm not saying that the other half is racist. I'm just saying that the majority wasn't
That
like
doesn't
there
define
could
a
have been
non-existence.
yeah, there could have been, 5% of that other half that was really, really racist. We didn't get rid of racism because we elected a black president. But
I get where even if you take race out of it, I get where if anytime you're like, we're not going to teach this in schools, I'm like, whoa, wait, what? Which thing
yeah.
is it important? Oh no, it's just history. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Uh, which it's funny because I don't think I started really questioning United States roles and events until probably maybe it was college. Yeah, I think maybe it was college. And my,
That's
professors
good
in
though. That's
college
what
are,
college is
are,
supposed to
are
do.
yeah, they're talking about like the opium, United States opium. I forgot where it was. Was it Japan
China or
that
Japan.
it was China or Japan
I
where
don't remember which
they
one.
they purposely. I'm terrible history now because that was a long time ago. Anyway, something about opium in the United
Essentially, an
States.
opium
Was
crisis where we were sort of funneling it or facilitating. Like it may not have been
yeah,
us feeding it directly, or it may have, but facilitating its presence in countries that we didn't like.
yes, some at that point. And then we learned about other stuff about it. I mean, and I say the point where that where teachers are like, listen, we were messed up in this case. I remember I had one teacher in high school who was like, we went over each war, United States role in it, and it was like, hey, here's the Civil War. Like some people uh might have the perspective that we lost that. Like he was pretty honest about like, hey, some people are still kind of butthurt about it. But anyway, not this. I don't know how I got on that.
No, I don't.
But
I honestly don't either. But it got me thinking about when I was really young. I had a toy plane. Just like this big metal, whatever. And I was playing with it, and my grandpa was like, "Yeah, that's the plane that dropped the atomic bomb on Japan." And so as a kid, you're like, "Wow, sick!" And then as I
yeah,
got older, and I
yeah,
still had that plane, and I can still sort of remember myself remembering how my grandpa said it, and I was like, wait a minute, he wasn't saying that like a cool thing. All right, hold on, let's apply some critical thought to this.
yeah.
Oh, that's bad. That's not a good
Yeah.
thing. Not saying I would take it back or making a political statement one way or the other. Just amazing when you notice your own perspective changing with life
Yeah.
experience and not being a small child. But
Yeah.
uh,
War is
nobody wins.
complicated,
Nobody wins in war.
and it's important to not look at it, I don't know, as a black and white deal. Like innocent people die, oftentimes, and it's important to think about that.
It's like I said,
Anyway,
it's vivid more than noticing myself growing. The vivid part to me is the memory of like how my grandpa told me, and remembering that later. And it's like, oh yeah, like
hmm,
it's not like he was telling me like he was trying to use it as a teaching tool, and I'm probably just like, wow.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
grandpa
No, I
tried.
get it.
He tried his
Yeah,
darndest.
yeah. But it's related back to Avatar. There's that great scene of Zuko confronting his dad, right? And it's like, growing up, we were taught again to have a public school system. Well, he went to probably a great private school.
I imagine
Growing up,
so.
we're taught that Fire Nation was the greatest civilization in the history of the world, and our war was a way of sharing our greatness with the world. It's like, what an incredible lie that was. Like, that's in a lot of essence the way the U.S. public school system is.
Yeah, I think so.
So,
Sad but true. But hey, college, it sounded like college for you at least, did its job, right? You start asking bigger questions and realizing.
gotta start paying money for the truth.
Listen, they only teach you the teaser stuff at public school. Now you paying your way, and
Yeah.
it's incredible. This is a
Oh,
very
rating. Yeah.
this is a very education oriented episode. I like it.
Yeah. Ratings. Got the ratings.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I thought we were done. Crap.
I
Here we
did too
go.
for some reason.
Just chatting. That's fine.
Audiovisual 9.5. So I wanted to bring up before in the commentary, Bryan brought up a really cool thing, which I probably noticed more so this time around because I watched on a much bigger TV, is how cool the scaling is, right? So when Korra turns into a huge giant, uh, she, she rips Rava out of her, and then Rava is a giant now also, but Rava is still very small compared to Korra, and it's just a really interesting dynamic. And then Korra's holding Janora in her hands. It's just a weird, in a really cool way, weird dynamic. Um, so yeah,
That's
um,
something I pick up on in video games sometimes, and I get really proud. I did not pick up on it here.
it's if you look back and watch it, like this, it's such a weird thing, like Korra being a giant looking down at at Rava and Janora. Like I don't know, it's really interesting. Yeah, the music was also great in this episode. 9.5. Story given 8.5 for everything that I absolutely loved about uh, Korra and her growth in this, and being able to connect to her own the energy within herself. That was all really done really well. If they would have explained the Janora aspect, I could have possibly given this a 9.5. But I got knocking for that because that's like I defend Korra a lot to to anybody, but then I'll be like, sometimes I'll be like, there's just as many plot. They sometimes people be like, oh, but they didn't explain so many things in the show. I'm like, they explained like everything, but the only thing they didn't really do a well job explaining was um, how Janora was able to do that one thing. They also don't explain that well about how they're new airbenders, but I was able to buy that a lot better just because harmonic convergence is a vague enough thing that I'm able to roll with that a lot easy.
And that, to be fair, that's like one of my crux with this entire season is like harmonic convergence, this sort of big, nondescript ordeal. Like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
It could happen.
So that's just an 8.5. Memorable. I love this episode. I think it's I always go back to it. Really, I think the crux of this is as a Korra fan. I love this was well, I love that she's able to bend the energy within herself. Like this is a big accomplishment that Korra by herself defeated the living, no avatar state, no past lives. Were able to defeat the living embodiment of chaos and darkness. So that gets a 9.
Solid rating. Very close for me. I had audiovisual at a 9.5. Ditto to what you said. I'd say there's a slow minute or two, very minor nitpicks that I'm going to dock for, but nothing major. It's great. Story, I actually went with a 9. I will say that you pointed out at least two serious things that I would not have picked up on before, which is maybe a flaw of our rating system as I'm watching through my own dumb eyes as
Oh,
opposed to other people's insightful ones. But no,
oh,
I will say it does a really nice job of, in the past 2 or 3 episodes, you feel like it could be ending, and it does a nice job of kind of still delivering something bigger. Like even over these previous
yeah.
episodes that were already big and exciting and impactful, and it does go bigger in a kind of literal way. So yeah, a good enough job, I suppose. So 9, I'm fine with it. I'll live with it. Memorable 9.5. Another case where I do kind of get stuff blended together a lot, but I always remember, even to this, like this being sort of my second watch through, looking forward to Giant Korra versus Unavatu fight, and this time it had way more meaning for me, picking up on more details, things like that. So, very memorable experience. That for me is a 9.3, which brings our rating up to a 9.15 or a 9.2.
Great. One thing I didn't mention was so looking at that picture, I'm reminded of a
It's a great
meme of
picture.
like of Aang being like, "I won't kill anybody," and then Korra be like, "Die, bitch!" like Korra's like ripping into
Just tearing a
someone's.
spirit heart out. She don't
Oh,
give
I
a
also
crap.
love the move she does. She does this like kind of move, and I can't. It feels like a very real martial arts move. I don't know. It reminds me of the 5-step punch in Kill Bill.
I haven't seen that in a long time, but the name sounds familiar.
Bill made the bride teach under this teacher, right? And then they set it up like early in one movie where they're like, oh yeah, he has this move called like the 5-step punch where if he punches you, the next 5 steps you take, your heart will give out. and uh and uh and so she went to him and learned under him, and she went back to Bill and she was like an assassin for Bill or something like that. And then she goes to fight Bill, and they're sitting down. He's giving her some stupid talk about Clark Kent, Superman. It's wrong anyway. Um, but she then does a 5-step punch on him, and he's like, "You learned that?" And she's like, "I did." And he's like, "You didn't tell me?" And she's like, I didn't tell you. I don't know why I didn't tell you, but I just didn't." Which is, oh, that's interesting because they were like lovers. They were pretty much married at one point until she got pregnant with his child, and she didn't want the child to grow up. Anyway, I love Kill Bill. The both series. I need to go
It's
back and
probably
rewatch
been
them.
8 years since I watched them. I need to get back and watch them again.
Yeah. Um, the Anyway, yeah, it reminds me of the 5-step punch thing. But also, I think this episode is probably the closest we'll ever get to like Avatar, Dragon Ball Z with the whole spirit blasting thing. I think they did a really good job with the sound effects of it because it has that type of deal. And it's not just a blast. Like you see the animation around it. I think it's done really well also. But I just wanted to mention that. That also goes to my audio visual.
It was it did feel kind of like a giant sort of, what do they call it, kaiju monster Power Ranger fight thing at the end there.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you reach inside of a spirit and rip out its spirit heart, other spirit, it's the yang to its yin spirit straight out of its heart.
Mm.
That gives it a little more impact. But um, that's great fight, great
Yeah.
episode. Even that picture, I mean, that's a pretty stellar picture, and I love the Northern Lights look in the background and everything.
Oh,
It's an
yeah.
excellent,
Yeah, and the
yeah,
episode starts off with the Northern Lights too.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a
I mean, the season starts off with the North,
great
but
visual right there. So
yeah. Oh, and also like Korra looks different. Like she's like more elongated. They purposely did that. Like it wasn't just a clear like, all right, let's just take Korra's size and just times her by 20. Like she's weirdly more longer, if
her
that makes sense.
proportions are slightly
Yeah,
different than they are
yeah,
as a.
as a regular human.
Yeah, okay. She grew up in a weird, literal
Yeah.
way, a couple ways.
Uh, oh, I also really loved. Now I'm feeling I'm remembering everything from audio visual. I just really love the scene where Korra's like riding Rava up to the arc, if you will. I would have loved to see her do the whole motion of like in my head, Korra rides Rava up to a certain point, and then Rava lets her go, right? And then like Korra's floating in the air, then Rava comes down and fuses into her, and then Korra touches the arc and refuses with, permanently refuses with her, and then she
So it
falls
kind of
down.
pulls
But they,
inward toward her like a magnet or something going on.
yeah, but they didn't show like the actual fusion aspect. They just showed her riding up Rava, which is still a great scene. Keep that. I think it was just beautifully animated. But
And that's Chris's re-rating.
yeah, me going back on the riding of it.
Still holds 9.5.
Yeah.
Great episode. Not an amazing episode, but great. I think that's fair.
I mean, it got a 9.2. That's
Yeah,
a
9.1,
pretty
9.2.
amazing
That's
episode.
that's the right ballpark for this episode, I think. That being
Yeah.
said, we are done with this season,
Done with the season.
which
I will probably not be. There's probably only one more episode that I'm going to be harsh about. Well, actually, I won't be harsh about it because I understand where it's coming from.
yeah, but you still got to look at it outside of that.
That's true. That's true. I gotta be as
What
objective as
I feel like,
possible.
or at least, well, I'm not going to tell you how to, because obviously, let's be honest, it really doesn't matter too much. It's our podcast. We do what we want. But in my head, it's like you have to take what you get in the show. At least
No,
is
I get
always
that.
my approach. But
Yeah.
which unfortunately, in
I just
Remembrance's
won't. I just
case,
won't.
is rough.
My review will be unbiased, but I think my talking about it, I won't be as negative, I guess, on or as passionately
But and it's an
negative on it.
opportunity to share this story with other people who may not have heard yet. So that's exciting too. Even if the episode itself, understandably, is bad. So yeah, looking forward to it either way. Looking forward to this next season pretty heavy. But we're not going to jump right to the next season yet. We are going to have at least what filler episode sounds mean, but at least one kind of one-off episode or spin-off episode, and then we might look at doing some like rankings episode or something like that before we jump in. Because I think once we jump into season 3, it's going to be hard to diverge, as
Yeah.
we're just going to keep wanting to talk about season 3. That's my prediction, at least. But definitely next week, one filler, one spinoff. A filler sounds too negative. One spinoff episode next week. And after that, we'll see where it goes. Chris, final thoughts?
You know what? I love the season, even though I hate a lot of little aspects of the season, or somewhat bigger aspects of it. Oh, we didn't mention that Varric broke out of jail.
The universe wanted him to be free.
Yeah.
I forget how he words it, something like that.
Yeah.
What
But
a tremendous character, Varric.
yes, he gets like even more attention coming up and
Yeah, it
growth.
just keeps getting better and better as time goes on. It's like getting hit in the head with a rock every day. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Come back next week for a little what if spinoff. Hope you guys. I don't know where I'm going with this. We're summer. It's almost summer, so hope your summer gets off to a great start. My name's Shawn Taylor. That's Chris Ford up there, aka The Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. This is Avatar: The Last Podcasters, Book 2 Spirits, Chapter 14, A Light in the Dark. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd be happy to hear from you or leave a comment on the video. We'll try to do a little better at addressing our comments in our episodes. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Very late on it.